hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the deep, dark, dank dungeon of the All Hat No Kettle News Rodeo studio. Migraine sitting right here. My own fault. Full disclosure, I have been modding Skyrim all day. Ever since I got off playing this morning, I have been modding like an absolute maniac, and I'm having a ball. So far, I've had exactly one problem, and it was my fault. I was clicking on the wrong launch icon. Once I realized what I was doing, that's it. No problems. And I've probably downloaded a good 40 or 50 mods. No real gameplay mods yet, except I just downloaded 2 new companions that I've never heard of before. Really looking forward to that. The rest of it is basically graphics cleanups and extra detail, things like that. Hopefully I'll be able to find some decent gameplay mods, quests, things like that. See how they are rated. But it's my wife's fault. It's my wife's fault. She got me interested in modding, and once I started, I couldn't stop. By the way, in case any of you use Vortex, Nexus Mods, the best mod site in the world, in my opinion. If you use it, but you're not a lifetime subscriber, seriously think about jumping in, because come August 3rd, that option will not be around anymore, and they will up their prices. So think about it. My lifetime subscription paid for itself 4 times over today. Within an hour, it paid for itself. Because remember, with one of the things you get with a premium membership is unrestricted download speeds. And you can download as often as possible, one right after the other, pop, pop, pop. So good news there, good news there. But so anyway, just a tip to the wise. By the way, today's drink of choice is covered in my Public Craft Brewing Company koozie, but this is Blood Orange San Pellegrino, an Italian soda. They call it a sparkling drink. It has 7% blood orange juice and another, I think, 20% regular orange juice and real sugar, not high fructose corn syrup. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I don't have it often. I have a couple cans a week, but I really do enjoy it. Knock, I got caught up in the moment. Knock, that's why I did it. I got caught up in the moment. And I didn't download everything, like, oh, there's one. I did pick and choose, but so far the game looks beautiful. I've added a few tweaks. I'm really happy with it. I'm really, really happy with it. But that's a fair question. I'm glad you asked. Okay, so anyway, as you've probably surmised, today is going to be one of those off the top of my head shows, because I gave myself literally 20 seconds to get ready to launch the show. So obviously I was a few seconds late, and I still have to create the internal link to the show page today. So you're going to get a black page in just a second. But we're going to go along, pick a story here and there, and see how long I can last before my headache completely blows up, and I have to turn the whole thing off. But all right, let's get to it. Let me get the window here. You're going to have a black screen for a second. I'll fix it in just a moment. And right here, there it is. Got it. Okay. So today I picked our opening Babylon Bee because it's too perfect for words. I couldn't think of a better one to start off with. And this is from their op-ed section by the great and ever-curmudgeon Frank T. Rutherford, conservative analyst and amateur prune farmer. It is titled, Op-ed, Back in the Good Old Days, People Died of Diseases All the Time and We Didn't Make a Big Deal About It. So again, this is an op-ed by Frank. What's my number one complaint about today's society? Oh yeah, hatlessness. Men don't wear hats anymore. Folks, I did not preview this. I saw the title and I pulled it up. So right now, Frank and I, boom, we're simpatico. Anyway, but what's my number 2 complaint? That's right, everyone is a bunch of sissies. With this pandemic, it's been sissy Christmas every day. Everyone is all, ooh, the virus is out there and going to get me. I'm going to hide in my house and wear my mask. Please inject me with stuff and tell me it will protect me. It's pathetic. No wonder nowadays people are confused about who women are, since everyone sounds like one. It wasn't like that back in the long, long ago, the good old days, when men were men and women were women, and you weren't allowed to switch. Back then, we weren't scared of any little old disease. And guess how we fared? Well, yes, a lot of us died. Medicine was not quite as good back then. A lot less medical debt, a lot more dying. It's a trade-off. But we weren't as whiny about it. And man, we had some diseases. Smallpox, polio, Spanish flu. And I know what they say, that the name is offensive now, but that was our PC term for it. If you heard what we actually called it, it would blow your little tolerant minds. Those things, they'd kill you. But we didn't care. We just lived our lives. Well, some of us. Others dropped dead. We had a lot more funerals back then, but those are the good social gatherings to meet and talk to each other, and we didn't have Twitbook and Facer, so it all worked out. Hard for me to read those. And because we stood up to disease and death, we built this country into something great with nuclear power and moon landings. You people can't do that these days because you're all hiding in your houses waiting for things to fall back to the Stone Age. So that's why you need to be like your ancestors and get out there and say, quote, I ain't scared of you, disease. I ain't even believe in germs and viruses. I've never seen them, and scientists could have made all those up. Close quote. And then get on with your life. What's the worst that could happen? Well, yeah, you could die, but nothing worse than that. Frank T. Rutherford, everyone. Conservative analyst and amateur prune farmer. telling it like it is. Thank you, Frank. Okay, so let us get to, as always, my personal conceit, the market. And the Dow took a hit today, closing at 0.26% below the open, barely above the 35,000 mark, so out of record territory for the first time in a few days. The S&P 500 was down over a full 0.5%, and I'm still getting updates. Seeking Alpha hasn't completely closed it out yet. And the NASDAQ took a very large hit today, down just over 1.2%, closing well below 15,000. Gold is almost exactly at $1,800 an ounce, up a bit. Crude oil is down the same amount, currently at $71.78 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate Sweet crude. And Bitcoin is still holding its rally just above 38,000 at the moment, a full 0.75% above its previous mark. And I'll tell you, I know this from people that I talk to. Hey, good afternoon, White Sox Liz. Sorry I missed you come in. Great good afternoon to you. Where was I? I get distracted by pretty women. You have to excuse me. Oh, yeah. I found an interesting site based solely on crypto called Coinbase. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's been in the news a lot. I think they recently had an IPO and did pretty well. But it is, in many ways, the one-stop shop for crypto. It has pretty much all of the different coins, memes, whatever you want to call them, listed. They're available for purchase. And they even have a hard wallet that you can use to take money, to take coin and set it aside from what you're trading with. So that's not unlike, say, Robinhood, where your stuff's just laying out there in the ether. No pun on Ethereum. And one of the other things I've been told about Coinbase is you can set up timed buys. So let's just say, off the top of my head, you want to buy $50 worth of Ethereum every 2 weeks. Click, 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 tap, 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 boom, it's set up. That easy. And again, these are things people have told me. I'm not discussing my investments one way or the other. I don't think that's important to any of you. And certainly I'm not a financial advisor, so why would it matter? But interestingly enough, look at Bitcoin. Because you remember, Bitcoin was up at around 64, and then it fell off the face of the earth and got as low as 29,000. And it was shorted quite heavily, by over $1 billion by a number of hedge funds until just the other day. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact. But if you had been doing timed buys on Bitcoin after it fell, you'd be in the money right now, because all of those buys between that 29,000 mark and Monday were all well below where it's at right now. I think the highest it was before it went up yesterday was about 35,000 per coin. Now, again, I am not a financial analyst. I am not a financial advisor. Bitcoin is highly speculative, according to a lot of people. Other people feel it's a sure thing. I would never, ever try to steer you towards one thing or another. I'm just saying, though, over the past few days, Bitcoin has incredibly outperformed the market, although it did also incredibly crash just a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So, there it is. There it is. Whatever you want to do. And don't ask me about Ethereum or any of those. I don't know anything about those. But I do know that Ethereum was up quite nicely yesterday as well. The rest of them I don't have a clue about. All right, let us get into some news. What I've done is I have set up my normal go-tos throughout the day, starting with the Daily Wire, then my Epoch Times Premium page, the Daily Caller, the Post Millennial, justthenews.com, of course the Reload, my favorite two-way website, and then for cleanup, the Bongino Report news aggregator, which has completely blown away Drudge. It just completely knocked it out of the park. It's an amazing thing. It's an absolutely amazing thing. And good afternoon, Dirty Air. So nice to see you. Man, you people are just running me down today. This is great. Again, yesterday was a ball, you guys. I hope if my head holds up that I'll be able to manage a decent day today, because you guys have really been showing up, and I can't thank you enough. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, well, look at this. Look at this. How's this for timely news? This is an article from the Daily Wire by Ben Zeisloft from today. Senator Elizabeth Warren asked Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to consider regulating cryptocurrencies. And of course, that was one of the things I've talked about often with crypto is whether or not it would survive government regulation. Now, of course, the big talking point, especially among Democrats, is that Bitcoin and Ethereum, all those, are used for illegal money laundering, which is of course hilarious because every transaction, except on a few cryptos, are logged digitally. You can't hide the transactions. And of course, no one ever does illegal dealings in the US dollar or the Deutsche Mark or the British pound. No one ever does that. It's hilarious, just hilarious. So anyway, so let's read what Cherokee Liz has to say here. Quote, I have become increasingly concerned about the dangers cryptocurrencies pose to investors, consumers, and the environment. Oh, God, the environment. In the absence of sufficient regulation in the United States. However, as the demand for cryptocurrencies continues to grow and these assets become more embedded in our financial system, the Council, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, must determine whether these trends raise concerns beyond investor and consumer protection and extend to broader systemic vulnerabilities that could threaten financial stability. Warren noted that 27% of hedge funds have crypto holdings, while banks' holdings of digital assets create, quote, liquidity, credit, market, and operational risks, close quote. For God's sake. Every investment is a risk, you idiot. The only surefire investment is a government bond. But the return rates on those are pretty pathetic compared to speculative trading like in the market or precious metals, things like that. Once again, the Democrats have this incredible aversion to risk. It has become very, very significantly overgrown since COVID hit. I mean, how many Democrats have said over and over again, if we can save just one life by making everyone stay in their houses for 9 months straight, if we can save just one life, it'll be worth it. That is total risk aversion. But anyway, and let's not forget, when Congress deregulated the banks, they were allowed to speculate with depositors' money. That was made a thing. So does Liz want to take that away from the banks? Probably. Maybe that would be a good thing. I don't want to say. Okay, continuing. Warren also pointed to vulnerabilities introduced by, quote, decentralized finance, by which users can, again quoting, engage in a variety of financial activities, including lending, borrowing, and trading derivatives to take on leverage without an intermediary, like a bank. Wow. Wow. The whole point of crypto is to not need a bank, to not have to go through a centralized monetary system in order to trade. That is the raison d'etre for crypto. She doesn't get it. She obviously doesn't know a damn thing about crypto. Not a damn thing. Whatever she knows about crypto, she got from reading The Onion. I'm not even going to continue. This is obviously a bunch of hogwash. Seriously, seriously. I'm going to have a beer. Honey, would you like a beer? The most famous fail in a campaign promotion ever. Well, this is interesting. I have switched over to the Epoch Times, and here's an article by their own Jack Phillips. It seems that the Department of Homeland Security has said today that it will do some repairs and reinforce some portions of the border wall. The agency, however, isn't going to build any new barriers. Reinforcement work will be done to a small area in California, along with 3 other projects. Quoting the completely failed DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, quote, "These projects are reflective of the commitments of DHS to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of communities along the border, individuals encountered there, and our Border Patrol agents who patrol the area. We remain focused on securing the border and keeping communities safe." That is the biggest lie ever told by DHS Secretary, ever, including, "We're not spying on you." Because we all knew they were spying on us. It was just a matter of confirmation. But this, again, they are saying the border is closed, that they have secured the border, when they have done the exact opposite for 6 months now, and it just keeps getting worse. I don't know if you saw Life, Liberty, and Levin Sunday night, but Tom Homan, I believe that's his last name, the one of the highest ranking members of ICE and CBP during the Trump administration. I believe he was assistant at one point. He has been to the border numerous times. Because remember, that guy came up through the ranks. He started as a CBP officer and went all the way up to the executive suite in Custom and Border Patrol. And he said flat out that the morale among Border Patrol agents is, and I'm quoting, "in the toilet." He says they don't feel like anyone's listening to them. No one is doing what they say they're doing. And they have been reduced to paper pushers. They are no longer allowed to protect the border. And it's the same with ICE. They have been reduced to desk jockeys. I told you the story yesterday. They are no longer going to be following up going along with a Trump rule, following up on F1 visa holders to make sure they're still in school, to make sure they're keeping grades that would allow them to continue, and to get a face-to-face interview to get an idea if they're getting some hinky ideas about America and about radicalization. Because remember, if we'd had that program in place before 9/11, the Twin Towers would still be standing. Period. End of story. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Sad, woeful, and disdainful. The move comes several days after the agency canceled several contracts for new wall construction in Texas that were signed during Trump's administration but weren't started. Early on in his presidency, President Joe Biden signed an order halting border wall work and has since signed dozens of other immigration orders, all illegal, all extra-constitutional, if I may add. Homeland Security's statement said it is looking at ways to spend billions of dollars in appropriations on the border without defying Biden's mandate not to build any more barriers. The Biden-Harris, quoting DHS, quote, "The Biden-Harris administration," what a joke, "continues to call on Congress to cancel remaining border wall funding and instead fund smart border security measures like border technology and modernization of land ports of entry that are proven to be more effective at improving safety and security at the border." That, again, a complete and utter lie. Walls work. Walls work. As I've said often, when they made the land ready to put up those walls, they graded entire sections of hills and ravines, all that. They made it beautiful, flat land, perfect for construction. And Biden stopped sections of the wall that were so far apart that people could just walk around a 80-foot section of wall with another 80-foot section of wall 120 feet away from that. Just a huge area that they could walk over. And it happens dozens of times a day, just in Del Rio alone. How can you have technology when you have nowhere to put it? If you put the wall up, you can have all the sensors you want. They'll be right there. They won't be susceptible to damage like a pole would. You can just ram a vehicle into a pole and knock it over. This is the most inept Department of Homeland Security, especially as the border is concerned, that this country has ever seen, and it's only been 6 months. It's only been 6 months. People are dying by the dozens every day trying to cross the desert in Arizona and Texas. And this administration doesn't give a damn. By the way, in case you were wondering when this was going to happen, this is also from the Epoch Times, also by Jack Phillips. The Department of Justice concluded in an opinion that federal law doesn't prohibit public agencies and private businesses from requiring COVID vaccines under the FDA's emergency use authorization. The Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel yesterday wrote that because access to vaccines is more commonplace, quote, numerous educational institutions, employers, and other entities across the U.S., close quote, have said they will require some individuals to be vaccinated against the virus as a condition of employment, participation, benefit, service, or relationship. So that's it, folks. Remember when they promised there would be no vaccine mandates? Again, the most truthful and transparent administration in U.S. history. The VA already announced yesterday that if you're involved in patient care, you're getting a vaccine, period. No medical exemptions that they spoke of. Certainly no exemptions for people who have had the virus. None. Remember, as far as this administration is concerned, here, herd immunity does not exist. No matter what your circumstances are, you're either vaccinated or you're a pariah. And again, I'm all for vaccines. But I'm trying to figure out how it can be legal to force someone to take an experimental drug. Because as proven effective as the vaccines are, they are still experimental. And there is the Nuremberg Code that says you can't force a person to acquiesce to an experimental medical procedure, period. That's very kind of you. Knock in the YouTube chat gave me a very nice compliment for on my gaming skills. I don't agree very much, but that's very kind of you. Trent Cryer says in the Trovo chat, "This was the plan all along. I'll never take that vax." And then she has the demon on fire emoji after that. I couldn't. Again, my vaccine status doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, if you and your doctor agree you should get it, great. If you agree you shouldn't get it, the government shouldn't be able to force you to get it. But it looks like that's thrown out the window. Continue. Oh, here you go. Continuing along this vein. Well, I tell you, that Babylon Bee article couldn't have been more timely. Here's a Epoch Times by Ivan Penchikov. Hundreds of San Francisco bars to require proof of vaccination or negative COVID-19 test. A group representing nearly 500 bars in San Francisco has said that patrons who want to drink inside will have to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test. San Francisco Bar Owner Alliance said its members will begin implementing the rule July 29th. 85% of the members polled said they support the move. The announcement was made public the same day that Governor Newsom required state and healthcare employees to be vaccinated or undergo weekly testing. A similar mandate is in place in New York City. By the way, quoting Health and Human Services Secretary Mark Galey from he says, California has administered more vaccines than any other state. Well, they have the highest population in the country, with 75% of those eligible having gotten at least one dose, and we were weeks ahead of meeting President Biden's 70% goal. um, yeah, I don't have anything, Knock, I don't have anything set up on DLive as far as subscriber only chatting or anything like that. So yeah, it might you may want to reinstall, or as Michael said, try a different browser. Both of those are excellent suggestions. Sometimes DLive just breaks. So let's actually let me go back to the Daily Wire for a second. I bailed on that really quickly. Oh yeah, how could I have missed this? The CDC, according to Emily Zanotti, is going to be revising mask guidance, returning to recommending masking indoors even for fully vaccinated individuals in certain circumstances. Most notably, the CDC is expected to announce that everyone in K through 12 schools, regardless of vaccination status, should wear a mask. Where's the science there, CDC? I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it if you can show me science to back that up. If you can show me science to show that kids K through 12 are carriers, and especially asymptomatic carriers of this disease, then okay, masks. You know my feeling about masks, but fine. But there is no science to back that up. There's exactly negative science to back that up. Quoting CNN, people in areas with high or substantial COVID-19 transmission should resume wearing masks, the CDC is expected to say. Nearly 2/3 of U.S. counties have high or substantial transmission of the Chinese Communist Party virus. According to CDC data, 46% of counties have high transmission and 17% have substantial transmission. Most notably, the CDC is also expected to follow recommendations made by the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association and suggests that, quote, everyone in K through 12 schools wear a mask regardless of their vaccination status. AFT President Randy Weingarten, the devil incarnate, who reportedly had a direct influence on CDC policy regarding a return to classrooms for in-person instruction, has continued, quote, to push for face masks to be worn in schools, even though nearly 90% of teachers who belong to the AFT are vaccinated. Follow the science, folks. Follow the science. That's what they told us. Huh. Headline. I'm not going to get into the article, but headline. Meghan McCain to produce TV movie starring Heather Locklear. Good for you, Meghan. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. I like Heather Locklear. She's a good actress. Oh, yeah. Another headline. Citing racial inequality, Senator Chuck Schumer asked Biden to, quote, flick his pen, unquote, and cancel $50,000 in student debt. Because that's what America needs, is to make college even more expensive than it already is. Oh, this is interesting. Also from the Daily Wire by Ben Zeisloft. 5 Cuban generals mysteriously died over the past 10 days. According to Periodico Cubano, a Florida-based news outlet that seeks to establish, quote, a communication bridge between Miami and Havana, they reported on Tuesday that Brigadier General Armando Choi Rodriguez passed away. A Cuban university, which first shared the news with the public, offered no details on his cause of death. Periodico Cubano details several other deaths, as translated below. On July 26, General Manuel Lastres Pacheco died. He joined the rebel army in the Sierra Maestra during the year 1957 and was placed under the command of Ernesto Che Guevara. Less than 48 hours ago, on July 25th, Major General of the Reserve Ruben Martinez Puente died. The 79-year-old from Santiago began his military life in the Sierra Maestra as a soldier under the command of the column led by Raul Castro in the Second Eastern Front, Frank Pais. Reserve Brigadier General Marcelo Verdecilla Perdomo Perdomo is one of my favorite cigar brands, who served as one of Fidel Castro's first bodyguards, died July 20th in the city of Cienfuegos at the age of 80. The fifth recently deceased general is Agustin Peña Porres, who died on Saturday, July 17th, while he was actively serving as head of the Eastern Army of Cuba. Now let's note, all of these deaths have ages of people who are well within the high level mark to die from COVID. The only one we don't have a age on is Peña Porres. But I'm sure he was at least in his 60s. I'm guessing, but I'm sure that's a distinct possibility. And as we all know, the vaccine in Cuba hasn't been all that widespread. The Daily Wire reported 2 weeks ago that some Cuban officials have been hesitant to support the regime's violent crackdown on anti-communism protesters. For instance, Cuban Vice Minister of the Interior, Brigadier General Jesus Manuel Burron Tabit, resigned his position after questioning the use of militarized police assets to repress the demonstrations. Wow. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Have to keep an eye on that. All right, let's go back to the Epoch Times. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, this came out yesterday. Updated today, again by Ivan Penchukov. A private counterterrorism group formed by the world's biggest tech companies, including Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, will use lists produced by government intelligence agencies to police content by white supremacist militias and other extremist groups, according to Reuters. Yeah, right. I'm sure BLM and Antifa are going to be on those lists. Once again, folks, who are these white supremacists? Seriously? The FBI, DOJ have yet to name one white supremacist militia, even, that's on their radar to the point where it needs to be investigated. They keep saying January 6th was white supremacy, yet none of them have been charged as being part of a white supremacist network. Of course, we're also supposed to believe it was an insurrection when nobody brought one gun. The only gunshot that was fired was into the neck of Ashley Babbitt by someone who may be the head of security for Senator Chuck Schumer. We don't know, but it's a possibility. Watch this get taken down by YouTube now. Continuing, the database maintained by the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism, or GIFCIT, has until recently focused on videos and images from terrorist groups on a UN list, and so has largely consisted of content from Islamist extremist organizations such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban. The group told Reuters that it will now vastly expand the database using lists from Five Eyes, an alliance of government intelligence agencies comprised of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, to target white supremacists and militias, including groups like the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters, and neo-Nazis. Folks, the Proud Boys are not white supremacists. Their leader is a part black, part Hispanic, named Enrique Tarrio. He's the worst white supremacist in history, as are anyone who would follow him. Last I heard, white supremacists aren't real keen on mulattoes of any mix. And this is Joe Biden's fault, because he named the Proud Boys off the top of his pointy little dementia-addled head during one of the debates as a gotcha, and President Trump didn't even know who they were. Most of America didn't know who they were. The only reason the Proud Boys exist is because the police allow Antifa to beat people up. If the police would keep Antifa on their side of the street and allow Patriot Prayer and other right-wing conservative groups to march legally with a permit and not attack them, then the Proud Boys wouldn't exist. The Proud Boys were created explicitly to provide protection for these groups because the police wouldn't. And when the Proud Boys call a rally, Antifa sends out an immediate call to action. That's what they call them, call to action. And they show up in droves, all ready for battle. And sometimes it turns out to be a head fake by the Proud Boys, and Antifa stands there with no one to fight, and then goes down the street and starts breaking windows and setting cars on fire. And again, the police are nowhere to be found. Same with BLM. Now, I don't know anything about the Three Percenters. And again, who are these neo-Nazis that are so prevalent that the government needs to be watching them? They've yet to name one group that has enough of a membership to where it could be considered a threat to anyone. Remember, the most prevalent hate crime in America is against Jews. Number one every year, especially in New York City. And it is the black community who attack mainly the Hasidim because they wear distinctive clothes and they have distinctive hairstyles and they're easy targets. And since you're not allowed to carry a gun in New York City, unless you're a criminal, you have no way to defend yourself. And on the West Coast, the majority of anti-Asian hate crimes in the 60s to 70% are also done by the black community. White committed hate crimes are the white minority in the statistics. You are much more likely as a white person to be attacked by a black person than vice versa. Much more likely. Especially if you're a cop. Now, I am not a racial determinist. These are just the cold, hard facts. Yet, you won't hear anyone in the media, except for folks like Ben Shapiro, who have on, Heather McDonald, who's the best author on crime statistics and how they expand across racial lines. Anytime Heather McDonald writes something, you should read it and memorize it. She's written some great books. And her articles are always good. And anytime she does a hit on Fox or she's interviewed on one of the other conservative shows, she nails it every time. She is the Christopher Rufo of crime statistics. A little further, 14 companies can access the GIFCT database on removed content, including Reddit, Snapchat owner Snap, Facebook-owned Instagram, Verizon Media, Microsoft's LinkedIn, I didn't know Microsoft owned LinkedIn, and the file sharing service Dropbox. The group recently added home rental giant Airbnb and email marketing company MailChimp as members. Folks, if you have any kind of right-wing views and you use MailChimp, your account is toast. Just so you know. By the way, I don't know if I'm going to have the story, but I also heard today, or was it yesterday? I don't remember. Yesterday, yeah, that's it. That PayPal is going to start linking up with the Anti-Defamation League, which is slightly removed from the Southern Poverty Law Center in believability, and they're going to start scouring their services for, quote, extremism. So if you've got a Facebook account, a PayPal account, like I do, I could probably kiss it goodbye. That's fine. There are a number of PayPal alternatives out there. I'm just too lazy to do it. It's my fault. But it's a thing, folks. It's a thing. And I'd like to thank Twin Crier in the Trovo chat. That's very kind of you. Let me back up a bit. I missed Michael Scriven's comment on YouTube regarding the masking. He says quite perfectly, masking children is abuse. I couldn't put it any better. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the Daily Caller. Did that yesterday. Oh, here we go. This is how I'm gonna die. Police officers share stories of violence and destruction during Capitol riot. Yes, of course, folks, the Nancy Pelosi hand-picked January 6th committee kicked off today, and I can guarantee you it's going to be all blood and guts and not one iota of truth regarding how Pelosi and Schumer were told, you need National Guard troops. Trump offered them 10,000 National Guard troops, and they turned him down several times. And then that day, people asked a number of times, please give us troops. This crowd is huge. We need more protection around the Capitol. Not only were they denied then, they were denied during the kickoffs to the riots. And we are also not going to find out that there is a strong likelihood that at least some of these battles were created by Capitol Police and DC Metro, who are on video taunting, sucker punching a protester. One cop sucker punched a protester after saying, come on, let's go. It's on video. And there's also video of the cops, without any provocation that we can see, launching tear gas, bear spray, and flashbangs with rubber pellets in them into the crowd. Now, I am not excusing anyone who initiated violence. But if you were defending yourself against unprovoked attacks, that would put a lot of this in an entirely different light. I do not excuse violence, but I do believe in being able to defend yourself. So that none of that's going to come out from Pelosi. You're going to see all this kind of stuff. Again, 4 police officers recalled horrifying violence and chaos suffered during the Capitol riot in opening statements to the January 6th Select Committee Tuesday morning. That's this morning. Article, by the way, from the Daily Caller by Andrew Trunsky. Funny thing is, that's horrible. That's horrible. Pardon me, I did not mean to say funny thing is. I did not mean to say that. That came out wrong. That, of course, is horrible. I would not want anyone to suffer violence and be injured. I would not want that. But whose fault was it? We still haven't seen any definite Capitol Hill footage from the CCTV system, aside from very small snippets, when compared to fuller video taken from the crowd, show an entirely different story. We're talking 14,000 hours of footage that is yet to be released. even to the defense attorneys. And notice how a lot of the big cases that the feds have put against the people who are sitting in solitary confinement right now, notice how they keep getting ratcheted down. One of the January 6 arrestees has had his charges diminished 4 times from the original charging document, as his lawyer digs up more and more exculpatory evidence purely on his own, because the government is withholding all kinds of Brady material, a direct violation of their constitutional rights. But once again, Antifa and BLM, where are they? Where are the mass arrests? Where are the mass prosecutions? Oh, they don't have enough staff to prosecute BLM and Antifa. We're going to let them go. We're going to hold a few guys accountable for arson in Minneapolis, but basically everybody else gets a free pass. Because all they did was try to blind federal law enforcement officers and burn them to death inside a building. That's all they did. It wasn't anything major, like knock a guy in the head with a flagpole. Nothing like that. Sarcasm off. Okay. Here's Peter Doocy doing God's work. This is from the Daily Caller by Virginia Cruta. Sorry, Virginia Cruta. Virginia Cruta. Says here, quote, vaccines work, the sign says that they do. Peter Doocy challenges Jen Psaki on mask mandates for vaccinated people. What the heck? Let's watch. Let me, the audio might be a little off. Give me a second to get it right.
Still, then why do vaccinated people need to put the masks back on?
Well, Peter, first of all, I would say again, just to go back to this chart, which I will handily point to again. If you were vaccinated, it can save your life. And I think the clear data shows that this pandemic is killing, is hospitalizing, is making people very sick who are not vaccinated. That still continues to be the case, regardless of what the mask guidance looks like.
The vaccines work, which this sign says that they do. Then why do people who have had the vaccine need to now wear masks, the same as people who have not had it?
Because the public health leaders in our administration have made the determination based on data that that is a way to make sure they're protected, their loved ones are protected, and that's an extra step given the transmissibility of the virus that people that they're advising people.
In other words, we're making this up as we go along. That's exactly what Psaki just said. And good afternoon, 46 and 2. Nice to see you. By the way, for those of you who don't remember, Jen Psaki is... Oh, wait, where'd my... Hang on a second. I lost a bunch of windows on my text file. Let's see here. Where did it go? I don't remember closing any of those. Huh, all my stuff's gone. All my stuff's gone. What the heck? Something overwrote my my Notepad++ files. They're gone. My Jen Psaki adjective string is gone. What in the world happened? I am hacked. I am absolutely hacked. Oh, wait. Oh, all right. Hang on. All right. For some reason, it put everything all the way over to the right side. All the, it put all the files over to the right side, so I couldn't see the stuff I normally use. I got it now. Okay. Here we go. Found them. I know it ruined the moment, but I'm going to do it anyway. In case you don't remember, Jen Psaki is the arrogant, condescending, dismissive, mendacious passive-aggressive, patronizing, self-righteous, smug, lying White House press secretary, that is Jen Psaki, as you saw just then. I'm going to hold off on updating Notepad++. My apologies for the confusion there. It's never done that before. It's never done that before. That was really strange. I usually leave it open so that doesn't happen. But yeah, folks, Jen Psaki said, yeah, the only people who are getting sick are the unvaccinated. Look at the chart, and Peter Doocy says, the chart says the vaccinations work. You just quoted the chart. And Psaki, all she can say is, well, we've got the data. They never provide it. And they wonder why people aren't getting vaccinated. And by the way, it is not just right-wing conservatives who watch Tucker Carlson who aren't getting vaccinated. The large majority of people who aren't getting vaccinated are minorities and healthcare workers. In New York City, the healthcare professional tabulations show that only 40 to 45% of New York City healthcare workers have been vaccinated. Vaccination rates in the minority communities, who tend not to vote Republican, are also way low. Again, in the 40s. Ray says in the D-Live chat, because the administration says so, is what I heard Peppermint Patty say. That's exactly correct, Ray. That's exactly correct. Because we said so. We have the data. You don't, even though it's right there on the chart that vaccines work. Oh, this is interesting. I'm sure none of them will go to jail. Jesse Jackson, 38 others arrested for refusing to leave Senator Kyrsten Sinema's office. Article from the Daily Caller by Gabrielle Temet. Jackson and Reverend William Barber, prominent civil rights leaders, Jackson is a race hustler, has been all his life, urged activists to fight for voting rights and an end to the filibuster. Hundreds of activists marched a mile to Sinema's office chanting, quote, "End the filibuster now." They said removing the filibuster would allow Democratic senators to pass voting rights laws and raise the federal minimum wage. Okay. The federal minimum wage doesn't need to be raised because since people are getting paid so much money to sit at home, thanks to the federal unemployment benefits, that restaurants and other shift work organizations are offering more than $15 an hour, and they're still not getting people to come back. Because if you're sitting on unemployment, the average salary is about 16 to 17 bucks an hour. So a $15 an hour minimum wage still wouldn't get these people off the couch. It's a step down, you idiots. Biden himself said you got to pay them more. That's why no one wants to work for you, because you're not paying them enough. Even though the wages in 2019 seem to be great for the vast number of more Americans who work than ever before. They seem to be happy with their wages. And now, of course, that we have over 1 million illegal aliens in this country since the beginning of the year, I'm sure there won't be a depression among wages in the low-skill community, because there's no way an illegal would take a job for money under the table for less than someone would get for a minimum wage. No way that would ever happen. Dog says in the D-Live chat, media should call Jesse the professional race grifter. Yeah, him and Al Sharpton. They're nothing more than grifters. They go to businesses and say, gee, it'd be a real shame if a race riot happened in front of your building. Maybe you should donate to Project Rainbow Coalition, or maybe you should donate to whatever the insane front organization that Sharpton shills for is. I can never remember the name of it. Continuing, Jackson said the country is in a, quote, civilization crisis, with, again quoting, battle lines drawn. He said, the power is in you, the people. Barry Smith, a 59-year-old retired school teacher, said as he was preparing to be arrested, quote, "I taught kids for 25 years that this is what you have to do to change things, and now it's time to step up. We're supposed to be a democracy, so having a minority running the Senate is just so infuriating." Barry, you were obviously a really piss-poor teacher, because if you were any good, you'd know that we are not a democracy. We are a representative republic, and part of that is a bicameral legislature where one body is ruled by majority vote and the other body is ruled by a 60-vote majority in a 100-member House or 100-member chamber. It's designed to not be run as a democracy, you idiot. I love Democrats. They loved the filibuster when Trump was in office. When Bush was in office, they loved the filibuster. And then Harry Reid took over the Senate and said, you know what? I'm pulling the nuclear option. We're going to be able to confirm judges on a majority vote. And Mitch McConnell, love him or hate him, stood right there and said, this is a mistake. You're not going to have the Senate forever. The minority party is going to get the Senate one of these days, and you're going to have to eat this. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And so that opened the door for Mitch to say, you know what, we're going to do the nuclear option on Supreme Court nominees too. He did that, and we got Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Now, the thing is, I don't understand why these people are so dead set on trying to get the voting rights law passed, because first of all, it's not a voting rights law. It is a cheat law. It is the Corrupt Politicians Act. And it's entirely unconstitutional on its face. The federal government cannot tell states how to run elections. Article 2, Section 1, I believe, or is it Section 3? I always forget. Directly in the Constitution, it is the states' legislatures who determine how voting goes. That's why all these laws are being changed, because so many states allowed non-legislative action to change the voting laws last year. But according to the Democrats, initially, voter ID is racist. And then they saw that 80% of Americans, including 80% of Black and Hispanic Americans, believe that voter IDs are a good thing. Suddenly they started saying, oh, we were never against voter ID. We've always been for voter ID. James Clyburn, leading liar for the Congressional Black Caucus, did that exact thing on national television. I've always been for voter ID. I got my voter ID when I was 18, and I've used it every time I voted. Liars. Liars. And they think they're supposed to run the country because they're morally superior. They know the difference between right and wrong, unlike Republicans, unlike conservatives. The degenerate racists, Islamophobes, homophobes, yada, yada, yada. They know better. So why should the Senate run the way it was designed when they don't feel that way? Again, the Electoral College is great when they win it, but as soon as a Republican wins it, they force a floor vote on every state's Electoral College vote every time, and the Republican does it, and they are a right-wing conspiracy theorist, a bomb thrower, and they are anti-America. And people wonder why no one trusts the government. This is nothing more than balkanization, and they are fine with it. They are absolutely fine with it. Here's something. This is from the Daily Caller by Hayden Daniel, Deputy and Opinion Editor. Oops, hang on a second. I haven't logged in. Excuse me just a moment. Let me close this page for a second. I don't want to give away my information. There we go. I don't know why it keeps logging me out. There we go. All right, I'm back. There we go. Analysis. 4 plots that the FBI was central in planning. All right, let's get to it here. Of course, this stems from the news from last week that it seems half of the people involved in the quote-unquote plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer were in fact FBI informants and undercover FBI agents who were, according to defense counsel, egging on people who have since been indicted and are in jail to go through with the plan, even though they said on tape, I don't want to go through with this. I don't trust that guy. So, according to the article, this is not the first time the FBI has been accused of encouraging and providing aid to criminal plots that may not have been carried out or even concocted without the Bureau's interference. The Bureau has been accused of entrapment multiple times during the War on Terror. Defense lawyers for the Newburgh Four Muslim converts who were arrested and charged in 2009 for planning to bomb synagogues in the Bronx and shoot down military planes, claimed that essentially the entire plot was instigated by the FBI through a paid informant who operated as the group's leader. The informant, Shahid Hussein, had previously participated in other sting operations for law enforcement and, quote, proposed, directed, supplied, funded, and facilitated every aspect of the, quote, terrorist plot, according to the defendant's lawyers. And that's according to the New York Times. The 4 men were arrested after they had already placed bombs outside several synagogues and come into possession of what they believed were surface-to-air missiles designed to shoot down jets. But the bombs and missiles were fake and had been given to the would-be terrorists by the FBI. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, if they hadn't been given the bombs, how could they have planted them? They obviously were led to believe that the FBI agents involved in the plot were actual bomb makers. So if you don't have a bomb, you can't plant one. That seems to be fairly ironclad. Continuing with the article, the supposed mastermind of the Newburgh Four plot, James Cromitty, was described by U.S. District Court Judge Colleen McCahan, I guess, in 2011 as, quote, bigoted and suggestible, but not a terror leader. Again, quoting, only the government could have made a terrorist out of Mr. Cromitty, a man whose buffoonery is positively Shakespearean in scope. Cromitty was sentenced to 25 years in prison for his involvement in the plot. Robert Lorenzo Hester Jr. of Columbia, Missouri, was charged in 2017 for trying to support an ISIS attack on trains and buses in Kansas City. Hester was aided by 2 undercover FBI agents who suggested the time, place, and type of attack and gave Hester money to buy materials to build what they told him were bombs to carry out the attack, according to the Kansas City Star. One of the informants reportedly threatened Hester with a knife and told him they knew where his family lived in order to make sure he did not deviate from the plan the informants had set up for him. Hester was sentenced to 19 years in prison for the plot. Sami Osmakak filmed what the FBI called a martyrdom video in which he denounced America and vowed revenge against it for the deaths of Muslims in the Middle East in 2012. In the video, he held a pistol, displayed an AK-47 behind him, and appeared to wear a suicide vest, according to The Intercept. Well, showing the guns would have gotten the video taken down off of YouTube. The rest of it wouldn't have, but the guns would have. I'm talking about you, YouTube. And this is according to The Intercept. Osmakak prepared to plant a bomb at an Irish pub in Tampa, Florida, and the FBI claimed that his next step would have been to head to a local casino, take hostages, and detonate his suicide vest once authorities arrived. But Osmakak was broke. He didn't have enough money to buy a new battery for his car, much less buy the weapon shown in the video. The Intercept reported. Remember, Glenn Greenwald was co-founder of The Intercept, is co-founder of The Intercept, but he left and struck out on his own last year because The Intercept tried to edit a story of his regarding Joe Biden and the laptop. He's the co-founder of the outlet, and they tried to edit his stuff, so he bailed. And he is doing really well for himself right now. You should subscribe to Glenn Greenwald on Substack. He has made Substack a place to be, and he is excellent. He is excellent. He has a lot of free stuff that's good to read, but his paid stuff is out of this world. I've got bunches of it in my Proton Mail account. The FBI had provided him the weapons, the bomb, and even money for a taxi to carry out the plan. A paid informant and FBI agents had been working with him for 3 months on the plot. The Bureau could not prove Osmakak had any ties to international terrorist organizations, and a court-appointed psychologist diagnosed him with schizoaffective disorder, which includes hallucinations and delusions. Osmakak was sentenced to 40 years in prison in 2014. Final one. Are you sick yet? Because I am. Terry Lowen was arrested in 2013 after he used his employee badge to try to smuggle a fake bomb into a Wichita airport, according to the Kansas City Star. I sense a theme here. The ploy had been devised by Lowen's 2 co-conspirators, who happened to be undercover FBI agents. The FBI recruited Lowen after he expressed interest in jihad to an undercover agent on Facebook. The plan was orchestrated over 6 months, and the undercover agents asked Lowen to take pictures of the airport where he worked and instructed him to procure materials to make the bombs to be used in the attack. They also arranged for him to meet another undercover agent who was posing as a terrorist. Lowen pleaded guilty to his part in the plot and was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2015. Quoting the article, entrapment is not crime, and it is a perfectly viable strategy for the FBI to use as long as the suspect in the case was already, quote, predisposed to committing the crime. The term predisposed is vague, and it is up to judges and juries to determine what, including posts on social media, constitutes an indicator that a suspect was predisposed to commit a crime. Partly because this ambiguity of the predisposed standard, entrapment defenses are rarely successful in terrorism cases. Now, we all know the Daily Caller has a right-wing slant. It was co-founded by Tucker Carlson. And this is on in their Patriots section. And this is as an analysis piece, not necessarily a straight news piece. But they're quoting articles, including from The Intercept and the Kansas City Star. And so this is all public available data, folks. I'm sorry, but again, the Daily Caller has its slant. But if you take what they said at face value, those all sounded like massive entrapment schemes to me. And again, the FBI uses these to justify its budget and to get even more money. Look at all we've done to foment. That's exactly what they have done, is foment terrorism, as opposed to prevent terrorism. They have fomented it. We just read 4 instances of where they exactly fomented terrorism. And we've got the Michigan case on the front burner right now. All right, let's move along to the post-millennial. YouTube, you're going to get all of it today. Let's see here. Okay, we've got something from the border block here. This is the post-millennial by Eli Canton-Nantel. This is from last week. Rural Texan community sees rise in crime deaths due to illegal immigration. Quoting a rancher, in previous years, we pick up 3, 4, 5 a year that had the misfortune of coming across the desert and not being able to make it. Since January, this influx, it's been crazy. I mean, like I said, we're up to 17, 18 dead ones this year. Fox News spoke with Hudspeth County Sheriff Arvin West, who said the county has, quote, had several break-ins. He adds that, quote, typically they break in, try to find food, water, things to continue on their journey. Here recently we had a big break-in where they broke into the house and stole a bunch of guns. That's a big concern. And of course, we've seen the video of coyotes, heavily armed coyotes, driving across Texas, getting up to a cattle fence, and then having the illegals jump out of the truck and then jump the fence and get into a waiting truck, and off they go. And they use encrypted communications to do this. We have made the border cartels the richest criminal organizations in the world over the past 6 months. And the money is still flowing in. It's not even close to drying up. Scrolling down in the article, again quoting the same rancher, since the mafia brought us, they took a picture of us, and if anything happens, we can't get away from them. I'm sorry, this is a illegal immigrant. I beg your pardon. I skipped a sentence. Illegal immigrants are also afraid of the cartels, with one telling Fox News from a county jail that, quote, since the mafia brought us, they took a picture of us, and if anything happens, we can't get away from them. He added, they are violent, they want to spill blood, they aren't afraid of anything. Okay, so that's all for the post-millennial. Not much new with them today. JustTheNews.com. Let's see here. Great website, by the way. It's one of the best out there. I'm very, very happy to be a subscriber to it. Let's see here. Inflation woes jeopardize Biden's infrastructure plan. With prices rising at a 5.4% annual rate, Republican support for the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure framework is softening, as well it should. This is by the Center Square staff and Casey Harper. It says here, this week marks a critical juncture for Biden to get support for his infrastructure plan before time and momentum runs out. The reconciliation plan, $3.5 trillion in federal spending, spearheaded by Senator Bernie Sanders, includes a laundry list of Democratic spending proposals not traditionally considered infrastructure, from health care to climate change spending. Pointing to, quote, growing inflation, U.S. Senator Rick Scott, Republican Florida, cautioned against Biden's spending plans. By the way, that $3.5 trillion? No. That's using accounting sleight of hand. It's showing certain things timing out before the 10-year budget that these things are normally planned over, but in fact they're going to extend. So by artificially cutting off the spending, it makes it look like it's less than it really is. As I've heard it told, it's anywhere from $5.5 to $6 trillion when you plan it out the way it's actually listed, not $3.5. Gee, go figure. How unlike a Democrat to lie about money. Let's see. Joel Benenson, who headed up polling for President Barack Obama, and key Biden advisor Celinda Lake have warned Democrats about runaway federal spending going into the midterm elections. Lake has pointed to voters who are concerned about inflation as well. A Harvard Capps Harris poll from June found that 85% of Americans are concerned about inflation, and the American Action Network released a poll earlier this month that found 88% of Americans are worried about the rising cost of living. Republican campaign operatives have taken note and have already begun hammering, quote, Bidenflation as a talking point going into the 2022 elections. Said Mike Berg, spokesman for the National Republican Congressional Committee, quote, telling voters that inflation doesn't matter when they are paying higher prices for groceries, gas, and just about everything else is incredibly out of touch. My favorite Biden quote recently, quote, we've gone from 60,000 jobs per month to 60,000 jobs every 3 days, more than 600,000 jobs per month since I took office, more than 3 million new jobs all told. That's the fastest growth, I'm told, at this point in any administration's history. Okay, of course, first of all, you were handed a gimme. All you had to do was get the vaccine out and let businesses open up, and those jobs were going to come. Those are not new jobs for the most part. Those are old jobs that are finally reopening. So right there, you're a liar. And again, I didn't like when Trump, forgive that slip. I didn't like when Trump used the phrase new jobs too. They were not new jobs. They were reopenings. And but still, Biden was handed a gimme. All he had to do was get out of the way, let the vaccine plan work, and all of this would have happened just fine. But instead, he had to start telling everybody to still wear a mask, even though they were vaccinated. He had to stop the J&J jab for 2 weeks, over 6 deaths out of almost 7 million vaccines. And the vaccination rate never recovered after that. It nosedived, and it's never come close to being what it was before they did that. And again, you can disagree with the vaccine, that's fine. But it was rolling out at 1.3 million a day. They crashed the J&J vaccine, and that was it. That was it. It went down to, in some states, thousands a day. But it's Republicans' fault that people aren't getting vaccinated. Remember that. Here's the thing, though. Again, Biden said, more than 3 million new jobs all told. That's the fastest growth, I'm told, at this point in any administration's history. Problem is, there are more open jobs than ever before because nobody wants to go back to work in the states that are still getting federal unemployment bennies over and above the state bennies. And those are not set to expire until sometime in December, either the 1st or the 12th, I can't remember. And the Republican states who have cut it off have seen big pickups in job takers, people going back to work, but they're also being sued by a lot of people for cutting off the bennies. But we're supposed to believe that that doesn't have anything to do with people not going back to work. Now, let's see what else Just the News has here. Let's see. Oh, this is kind of sad. Former U.S. diplomat pleads guilty to assaulting, I can't use that word on YouTube, drugging, photographing dozens of women over 14 years. Brian Jeffrey Raymond was most recently employed by the federal government in the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, Mexico. Brian Jeffrey Raymond, 45, of La Mesa, California, also admitted to abusive physical contact with numerous women, the Justice Department said Friday. Raymond was most recently with the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, Mexico. He left the country after an adult woman was seen May 31st, 2020, nude and screaming for help from his balcony. The woman reported she had no memory of events after consuming drinks and food provided by Raymond, according to the department. Quoting Assistant Attorney General Kenneth A. Polite, Jr., Brian Raymond betrayed the trust granted to him as a U.S. government employee representing the U.S. abroad by engaging in years of predatory conduct, sexually abusing, exploiting, and recording vulnerable women he targeted in the U.S. and around the world. Law enforcement agents recovered hundreds of photographs and videos depicting over 20 unconscious and nude or partially nude women from Raymond's cell phones, iCloud account, and other electronic devices. Raymond created these materials starting at least as early as 2006 and continuing up until May 30, 2020. The women experienced memory loss during their time with Raymond and had no knowledge of the photographs, videos, or physical conduct. In the plea agreement, Raymond admitted he engaged in physical stuff with two of the victims depicted in the recordings when both were incapable of appraising the nature of the conduct or consenting to it. The offenses occurred on May 30, 2020 and March 26, 2020 in Raymond's embassy-leased residence in Mexico City. Additionally, Raymond admitted that over the course of 14 years, he recorded and or photographed at least 24 unconscious and nude or partially nude women and touched the sex areas of numerous women while they were incapable of consent. And we're supposed to take our cues on morality from the government. I have never, ever used the president as my moral compass, nor should anyone. And if a president asks you to use them as your moral compass, run, do not hide, because that is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to federal employment. This guy has been up to this for 14 years. And not a nibble from his superiors? Ray says he pulled a Cosby. He did indeed. Michael North, he put it on the iCloud. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, one more from justthenews.com here. Here's something that I referenced earlier. Former Matt Drudge deputy starts to rival Drudge Report. Joining Curl as co-editor is veteran journalist Paul Bedard, Washington Secrets columnist for the Washington Examiner. I know Paul Bedard. I read his stuff. He's very good. He is very, very good. So what have we got here? This is from the Just the News staff from this morning. The former editor of the Drudge Report, Joseph Curl, announced Tuesday the launch of Off the Press, a conservative-oriented aggregator that he says will have a, quote, fearless attitude toward covering, again quoting, everything for those who devour news all day, close quote. Huh. I will have to look for that. You know what? Let's take a look for it right now. Let's see, what was that again? Off the Press. Off the Press. Offthepress.com. It's official. Capitalism works. $15 an hour wage becoming the norm as employers scramble for workers. What did I just say? What did I just say? Here's one. Let's go to this right now. Over $1 trillion in COVID federal funds unspent. Government Accounting Office. The government has run a cumulative deficit of $2.2 trillion so far in 2021. Okay, now, Trump was a spender. Definitely. He was the last person you could call a small government, cut the budget president. But we knew that going in. We knew that going in because he said, we've got to rebuild the military. And the Obama and Biden cut hundreds of billions of dollars out of the military budgets during their 8 years. Remember that the sequestration where they closed dozens of military bases that are now being used to house illegal unaccompanied minors? Funny how that happened. But Trump had to bring the military back to a fighting force, and that cost a lot of money. I think he spent about $1 trillion on the military alone. And he did open up some other government programs that were pretty, New York Democrat style stuff. But he also got a lot done. So you can go back and forth on that. If you're a complete, cut the budget Republican, then Trump wasn't your guy. I think you take what you can get. But so the government, I always get the name of this office wrong. The Government Accountability Office reports, quote, despite over $1 trillion in unspent federal funds sitting in accounts. I'm sorry, this is I'm misquoting. That's the House Budget Committee Republican leader Jason Smith, Republican Missouri. Quote, despite over $1 trillion in unspent federal funds sitting in accounts, Democrats are focused instead on how they can spend trillions more by reaching back into taxpayers' pockets or adding more to the nation's debt. The $1 trillion figure includes $156 billion approved by the Department of Health and Human Services and $210 billion that the federal government allotted for state and local governments. A number of state and local governments have been planning ways to make use of the federal funds for needs unrelated to COVID-19, such as local infrastructure. The GAO report reads, quote, as of May 31st, 2021, the $4.7 trillion appropriated by 6 laws for Chinese Communist Party virus relief, including about $1.6 trillion appropriated by ARPA, which was enacted, that was the American Recovery and Something Act, that was Biden's thing, which was enacted in March 2021. The federal government has obligated a total of $3.5 trillion and has expended $3 trillion as reported by federal agencies. Wow. Wow. This is an article from Fox Business, by the way, by Audrey Conklin. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to offthepress.com often, since I get a lot of my news from my main sources, and then there's the Bongino report, but I will be keeping an eye on it, and of course, you are more than welcome to check it out. Offthepress.com. It is a thing, folks. Give it some traffic. I'd like to welcome man with... I can't read that aloud. That's a bit disgusting, but welcome to the channel. It's your name. Yep, be proud of it. But there's certain things I can't read aloud, and I'm afraid your name is one of them. I realize the spelling is different, but it reads the same. But anyway, welcome to Trovo. And I'd also like to welcome apathetic ticking. I know I'm pronouncing both words, but it works. It works. Glad to have all of you to Trovo. Please consider following the channel. We're here every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern for a 2-hour news rodeo on YouTube, DLive, Trovo, and Twitch, although YouTube usually only gets the first hour. Today is a loosey-goosey show, so I'm just doing the whole thing straight across the board. And then every morning, 8 a.m., Monday through Friday, Eastern, I stream PC games, 9 a.m. On the weekends. And right now we're doing Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I just modded the living heck out of it, too. Just downloaded a couple more companions before I went live. Looking forward to it. All right, let's see if the reload's got anything for us. Let's see. Nope, nothing new there. Okay, we'll finish up with BonginoReport.com. Let's see. Oh, gee, who expected this? Debunked claims Officer Sicknick died from Capitol riot injuries reemerge at Day 1 hearing. The evidence-free claim that... this is an article from the Washington Examiner by Jerry Dunleavy. I love Jerry Dunleavy. Great reporter. The evidence-free claim that Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died from injuries suffered in the January 6 riot reemerged Tuesday during the first day of hearings in the Democratic-led House Select Committee's inquiry of the event. Sicknick, 42, died the day after responding to the riot. In the days that followed, news outlets reported the 13-year veteran was beaten with a fire extinguisher, but the medical examiner concluded Sicknick suffered 2 strokes and that his death was from, quote, natural causes. Still, committee chairman Benny Thompson, a Mississippi Democrat, said in his opening remarks that, quote, 7 people lost their lives in the riot. The number would appear to include Sicknick, 2 officers who died by suicide in the following days, a protester shot by police, 2 protesters who suffered fatal heart attacks, and another who died of a suspected drug overdose. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn also perpetuated the claim regarding Sicknick in his remarks, quote, I'd like to take a moment of my time to ask for a moment of silence for my fallen colleague, Officer Brian Sicknick, who died from injuries he sustained in the line of duty defending the capital of our beloved democracy. And Capitol Police Officer Aquilino Gonell said that, quote, as a result of that day, we lost officers, some really good officers. Wow. I mean, we all knew this was going to be a complete joke, but, oh, God, they are such liars. They are such out-and-out liars. In a statement issued after the Senate acquitted Trump after their hearing, President Biden said that Sicknick died, quote, protecting the Capitol from a riotous, violent mob. Biden later mischaracterized Sicknick's death at a Geneva press conference following a June summit with Vladimir Putin, rejecting comparisons of the January 6 rioters to political dissidents. Quote, it's one thing for literally criminals to break through cordon, go up into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held unaccountable than it is for people objecting and marching on the Capitol and saying, you are not allowing me to speak freely, you are not allowing me to do A, B, C, or D. A bipartisan Senate report in June on the Capitol riot also contended that 7 individuals, including 3 police officers, ultimately lost their lives as a result of the siege on January 6. Wow. And again, we all expected this, but it is still very disheartening. Not surprising. And again, this is why I never use the word unbelievable anymore, because it is not unbelievable what these people do. It is just a little more surprising each time they ramp it up. But it is never unbelievable. Oh, this is nice. Another border story. This is from Axios, not necessarily known as a right-wing source. This is from 3 hours ago by Steph W. Kite, K-I-G-H-T. Not Knight, Kite. Scoop, 50,000 migrants released. Few report to ICE. About 50,000 migrants who crossed the southern border illegally have now been released into the U.S. without a court date. Although they are told to report to an ICE office instead, just 13% have shown up so far, Axios has learned. The sizable numbers are a sign of just how overwhelmed some sectors of the U.S.-Mexico border continue to be. A single stretch covering the Rio Grande Valley had 20,000 apprehensions in a week. The figures also show the shortcomings of recent emergency decisions to release migrants. And I would like to thank JF for gifting the subscription to Michael North. Very nice of you, good sir. Very nice of you. That reminds me, let me take a look at something here. Yeah, we'll have a treasure chest sometime this week. I can't be any more specific than that, or D-Live will shut me down. But I will be doing one, but I can't say when. Okay, so continuing. It's unprecedented for agents to release migrants without an official notice to appear in court. Where it has occurred recently, migrants have instead been given a list of addresses and contacts for ICE offices across the country and told to report to one of them. The hope has been for migrants to show up at these offices after reaching their final destination to get work permits. Just 6,700 migrants who crossed between mid-March and mid-July showed up at ICE offices as of Monday, one source briefed on the Department of Homeland Security told Axios. 16,000 have not showed up and passed the 60-day reporting window they were given. That's 2.4 no-shows for everyone that's checked in. Another roughly 27,000 migrants who crossed and were released during the same time frame have yet to turn up, but remain within the 60-day window for reporting. One DHS official emphasized that nearly 70% of migrants are within the 60-day window or have reported to ICE. Oh, cute. They haven't become illegal yet, but we violated the law by letting them into the country without giving them a court date. That is a direct violation of the asylum law. In fact, I heard last night that a large percentage, like 1/3 or 2/3, forgive me, I forgot the number, but a large percentage of illegals hitting the border don't even claim asylum, and they're being let in. They don't even have to lie about it anymore. Remember, these people are coming from all over the world, not just the Golden Triangle in Mexico. All over the world. Yet we're to believe it's all due to climate change and LGBTQ denial of rights. Like there are thousands of trans coming across the border every month. Gotcha. Continuing with the article, meanwhile, migrants continue to be released. Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat, Texas, told Axios that as of Monday, 7,300 migrants in the in the Rio Grande Valley sector, also the RGV, had been released during the past week without court dates. Cuellar said the total number of migrants released since March was up to 55,000. The White House's emphasis on root causes in Central America, focus on critiques of former President Trump's harsh border policies, and insistence that the inflated numbers are just seasonal, are falling flat. That's Axios saying that, folks. That's Axios saying that. Wow. Wow. Michael North says in the Dialect chat, Mexico and other countries were working with us. They don't want this atrocity either. No. I heard a stat the other day that something like 35% of all Salvadorans live in the United States, which means that we're getting not only those who are fleeing economic circumstances, we're getting people who are fleeing because they want a better education and want a better job. So El Salvador is losing the bottom of the barrel. They're also losing the top, or the cream at the top. It's called brain drain. And it's quite common in developing countries, losing their most articulate, their brightest, to countries like the United States. Because this is where they know they have a chance of having a great deal of success. As opposed to sticking it out in El Salvador, for instance, and helping make it a better country. They're just taking the easy road. And this administration is offering it to them on a silver platter. All right, let's see what else we can find. Let's see. Trump endorses Ken Paxton for Texas Attorney General. Interesting. Former Biden official who scored $87 million contract to house migrants banned from ICE contracts. Oh, this ought to be good. Also the Washington Examiner, this time by Anna Giaritelli. Sorry, Anna. Giaritelli. Nice Irish girl. I'm sorry. That's a video of yet another bright daylight, middle of the day crime being committed in New York City. By the way, Barbara Boxer, remember California politician Barbara Boxer? She was mugged in broad daylight yesterday in San Francisco, in an upscale neighborhood. Somebody drove up, guy got out of the car, jumped her, took her stuff, jumped in the car, and they drove off. Defund the police, folks. Got to do it. We need to rethink policing in America. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. The Biden transition team official who brokered an $87 million immigration contract for a nonprofit organization that he was simultaneously advising was never cleared by federal authorities to work on the deal and has since been banned from any future work with ICE, according to agency documents. How about firing him for a complete and blatant conflict of interest and violation of your duties? Maybe fire them? Of course not. Why would anyone get fired in a Democrat administration for breaking the law? Continuing with the article, a high-ranking ICE official in D.C. on June 2nd sent his colleagues a message obtained by the Washington Examiner that stated Andrew Lorenz Strait, the senior director for migrant services and federal affairs at the nonprofit Family Endeavors, was denied the proper clearance to work on the contract he had secured for his organization months earlier. I was reading ahead just to make sure I wasn't getting lost, so forgive the dead air. Okay, continuing. Okay, quote, Mr. Andrew Lorenz Strait was not cleared to work on ISAP 4, I believe. Please remove Mr. Andrew Lorenz Strait from supporting the ISIP 4 contract, wrote Joshua Jones, the management and program analyst for the Alternatives to Detention program within ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Custody Management Office. Alternatives to detention, folks. That means letting criminals go free. That's why New York is such a sunny, safe place to live right now. Same for San Francisco and LA and Chicago and St. Louis and Atlanta. All those great Republican cities. Oh, Minneapolis, Seattle, and Portland. Forgot those. Continuing. ISAP 4 is the Intensive Supervisory Appearance Program 4's support services through which ICE manages illegal immigrants who have come across the border and have been released into the U.S. Lawyers familiar with the new development said that I'm mispronouncing the name. It's Lorenzen Strait. There was an extra syllable there, who had overseen ICE's custody management, only adds to concerning evidence that prompted the DHS Office of Inspector General to launch an investigation into the deal following the Washington Examiner's reporting this spring. Quote, he has a conflict of interest under 5 CFR 2641.201, which permanently bans any former federal employee from working on a federal contract that he or she substantially participated in or had some influence over while serving as a federal employee. Close quote. That was from Carol Thompson, a partner with the Washington-based Federal Practice Group law firm. Quoting her again, I think it's clear in this case that Mr. Lorenzen Strait falls in that category. Quoting Project on Government Oversight, references to Lorenzen Strait in a DHS contract email raises questions about the integrity of the award and how it might be another example of how the revolving door and friends in high places sways government decisions and deals. There's a lot more. In an unusual move, the government did not seek bids from other U.S. organizations and businesses, instead making a deal through Lorenzen Strait, as the 3 officials with knowledge claimed. No bid awards are only permitted in emergencies, according to Thompson. ICE cited, quote, unusual and compelling urgency for not complying with federal contract law. In May, Lorenzen Strait began asking the public for donations to fly families detained in its hotels to destinations across the country where they would live until showing up for immigration court years down the road. Family Endeavors told the Washington Examiner that it was, quote, seeking private support to ensure migrant families without the means to procure transportation to their final destination are able to do so. And ICE has not responded to a request for comment. All right, one more story and I'm going to call it a day. The headache's starting to kick in. Let's see what we've got here. Let me find something from national security. Get a little military action here. Sorry for the dead air. I'm reading. Ooh, oh my God. This is from Blaze Media by Sarah Taylor. Not a feel-good story. So cover your ears if you're young and impressionable. Angry crowd stoned to death gunman who reportedly killed partygoer and wounded 3 others. This is from yesterday from Blaze Media by Sarah Taylor. A suspected gunman in a deadly Fort Worth, Texas shooting has been stoned to death, according to local reports. The unnamed suspect reportedly opened fire on a group of partygoers in the early hours of Monday morning, killing one and injuring at least 3 others, according to KDFW. I know that station well. It's the top Fort Worth station. Following the shooting, the crowd reportedly chased down the suspect and began throwing gardening stones and landscaping bricks, fatally injuring the suspect. The Sun reported that a local reporter, quoting the Fort Worth Police Department, said that, quote, the crowd defended themselves with gardening stones, killing the gunman, close quote. A news release obtained by KIRO-TV noted, quote, a small gathering was taking place in the backyard of a residence when one of the attendees became upset and left the gathering. Authorities said that the unnamed partygoer later returned to the party and reportedly engaged several other people in an argument, prompting the attendee to open fire on the group. The other attendees of the party then gave chase to the shooter, authorities said in a release. The shooter turned and fired at other people. A group picked up concrete landscaping bricks and started throwing them at the shooter. Investigators said that the crowd eventually overwhelmed the suspect as they fell to the ground. Quoting investigators, a victim was pronounced dead at the scene, and another victim was transported to an area hospital with a non-life-threatening gunshot. The shooter was struck multiple times with at least one landscaping brick and was pronounced dead at the scene. A spokesperson for the Fort Worth Police Department told the Washington Examiner that one victim was in critical condition as of Monday, and 2 suffered non-life-threatening injuries. All 3 are expected to survive. The Sun noted that a neighbor who lives near the home where the incident reportedly took place said that those at the home, quote, play music really loud on the weekends. Quoting the unnamed resident, one of my neighbors had to go down there and tell them to turn it down. Authorities say they are investigating the deaths. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. In the Como area of Fort Worth. I do not know the Como area, so I can't give you an idea as to what type of neighborhood that is. I don't know Fort Worth very well at all. I know downtown Fort Worth pretty well, but I don't know the residential areas at all. But wow, that's not something you expect to read in a U.S. Report, folks. Especially in Texas. You'd have thought there'd been a few guns, but paving stones and gardening bricks. Wow. Wow. Electric Dog says in the DLF chat, mob justice is scary. How do you untangle that? I don't know. I do not know. And JF says, what a tragic story. It is. It is a horribly tragic story. I guess never bring a gun to a rock fight. Is that the new normal? I don't know. All right, let's go out on an up note with a Babylon Bee. But first, get those get those muscles going, get those mouse clicking fingers ready, folks, because in the D-Live section of this show, it is TC time. We're gonna let it loose, and folks, I'm gonna kick something into the kitty because you guys have been so incredible this week. You really deserve something special. So here we go. That seems only fair. And get them clicking buttons ready because this is a big one, folks. And we're off. Countdown in the D-Live chat. Folks, this is what you get for not being on D-Live. And let's see here. Where's my countdown? I lost my countdown. I can't find it. Oh, okay. I clicked the wrong button. Here we go. Now we're counting down. My bad. I got so excited I did it wrong. All right, and we are down to 25 seconds. Continuing to count down. 20 seconds. Oh, I lost the count again. Okay. 10 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're done. Ray. Sorry, Ray, you weren't third. You're the big winner. Dog coming in a very high second. Michael North, Justifiable Freedom, and Scully rounding out the top 5. Congratulations to you all. Congratulations. You guys have been so great this week. I think that's the most I've ever kicked in, except I did 1,000 last year on election night. Good job, you guys. Good job. Good job. All right. So let's get to Babylon Bee, and we will get out of here. Let me refresh it real quickly, see what the latest one is. Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. The Babylon Bee bookend on the right, folks. This is from their politics section. Ghost of AOC testifies before January 6th committee. And here we have a picture of a couple of Democrat Congress critters, including the execrable Rashida Tlaib on the right. And flanking them is the ghostly image of AOC with her hand raised, ready to give compelling and truthful testimony under oath. Dateline, Washington, D.C. At the first hearing covering the January 6th insurrection, powerful, gripping testimony was given by the ghost of AOC, who passed away in the deadly riots. Committee members got out some candles and a Ouija board and attempted to summon her spirit. Finally, she materialized to give her testimony. Reporters say there wasn't a dry eye in the place as Ocasio-Cortez related the events of that day. Quote, "I died that day," she said, ghost tears flowing from her ghost face. "It was horrifying. It was like a medieval war, fighting inch by inch, little by little, trying to push out the invaders. Sadly, while others survived by the skin of their teeth, I didn't make it." Close quote. Ocasio-Cortez recounted to a mesmerized audience how she fought off the attackers with her .50 caliber mounted machine gun, taking down wave after wave of Trump supporters intent on killing her. But finally, she claims, one of them threw a copy of The Art of the Deal at her face, and she dropped dead. She also claimed the person who threw the book at her was, quote, "probably Ted Cruz." Finally, she said, "Okay, I gotta go haunt Ben Shapiro now. Bye!" The Babylon Bee, everyone. Always taking us out on a high note. Okay, good people. A little early today because the head's trying to split open. But thank you for putting up with another loosey-goosey episode. I have to admit, it was a lot of fun. And I want to thank Electric Dog. Excretable. T-Lob says Electric Dog. Excretable. That very good. Good one, Dog. Good one. It does deserve the extra T. Anyway, you guys have been great. I really had fun. And thank Electric Dog, by the way, for reminding me about this particular format, because I had honestly forgotten all about it. I remembered after he reminded me that we had talked about it and that you guys had liked a couple of them already, but it had completely slipped my mind. So once again, my technical producer and King of the Links coming through in the clutch. So for those of you who care to get up early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, I will continue my playthrough of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Again, lots of new modded textures, grass, trees, character faces, mountains, all kinds of cool looking stuff, all 4K resolution. And I'm adding a couple extra things, like I can now jump higher. I can now actually jump over a fence for the first time ever. Cute little things like that. And if you don't care to get up early, I will, of course, be on tomorrow afternoon, God willing, and the creek don't rise, at 4 p.m. Eastern for another 2 hours of fun, frivolity, and facts with the daily All Hat No Cattle News Rodeo, excepting, of course, YouTube, which normally only gets the first hour. But today I felt expansive, so YouTube, you got the whole thing. And remember, Gab TV used to get only the second half of the show, but it looks like a new formatting trick I've tried allows the whole show to go up on Gab TV. I'm going to be monitoring the views that I get, and if it lowers from the normal 80, 86 I get each show, I'll go back to the second half format. But if I pick up views or it stays the same, I'll continue to give Gab TV the whole show. So we'll see how they like it. All right, good peoples. Until the next time, be well. God bless. Happy trails. Flaming turkey and learning curve on the way out. There we go. Usually, if it's grass, you can climb it. Oh, shoot! Dang it! Oh my God, in heaven, I got killed by a turkey!
I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. From the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny